Shalom and good morning. My name is Elliott and I am the creator and founder of homeschoolingtorah.com. And I would like to welcome you to our anniversary celebration week. Homeschooling Torah has been in existence for 13 years and we are so excited that you are here with us now. We decided this year what would be really fun is to go back in some of our conference archives and pick out some of the very best videos. Now, how do we choose the ones that are very best? And the way we did it is, well, I just picked out some of my favorites, some of the things that I remember recording and I remember thinking, that's really got some good stuff in it. So I hope that you like our choices. This first one is going to give you 10 steps on how to be completely ready and confident to start your new homeschooling year. Now, this is a replay from 2022, but I am live right now down in the comments. So if you have any questions while we're discussing everything, or you're like, you know what, is that the same 4 years ago as it is now? Or, hey, what about this, Anne? I'm here. I would love to answer your questions. So just go ahead and start chatting with everyone. And I hope you really love this conference replay. Shalom.
Hi, my name is Elliott. I'm the creator and founder of homeschoolingtorah.com, and welcome to my home. I hope you'll grab a cool drink, pull up a chair, definitely grab your Bible. You're going to want some paper and a pen or something to write down a lot of notes because I want to give you a lot of ideas today. I want to tell you the basics of getting started in homeschooling. Today I'm going to give you 10 steps on how to feel like you're confident in your new school year. Whether you're your first time homeschooler or you've been homeschooling for many years, you might need a refresher. So here are 10 steps. Step 1, let's get organized. Okay, we're going to go a little deeper into this and some things that you need to do to get organized as we go through the 10 steps. But basically, here's where you get started. First of all, you need a binder for you as mom so that you can keep yourself organized. And when I say a binder, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just go to Walmart and I like a 1.5 inch binder, sometimes even a 1 inch binder, because I just don't like something that's super thick. I keep mine in the top drawer of the hutch that's really close to the dining room table where we do our homeschooling, and it just doesn't fit if it's massive. I don't keep my entire life in here, I just keep my homeschooling in here. And so what I'm looking for in a binder, I want something that's a nice enough quality that the little rings don't come unattached as I'm opening and closing them throughout the year. So this might not be the place to go to Dollar Tree or somewhere cheap to get this. You might want something a little better quality. I love pockets in the front and back. My ideal notebook has like 2 pockets in the front and 2 in the back, just because I have a lot of things that I want to keep in there, such as the school year calendar and maybe a list of subjects that I'm wanting to do with my high school students, or just random little bits of things that I store in those places. Having said that, I also put inside my binder sticky notes. And I've been talking about sticky notes already in this conference, and I have lots of different kinds of sticky notes. I have the ones that have just the little tabs. I use those to keep my place in my book and in our reading books and in my Bible and in just all over the place. I use them for everything. But I also have the bigger sticky notes that you can use to write notes to yourself on. And those are just as my brain is thinking of things throughout the day and I don't want to forget them. I want to have those handy. And then I like to have some pens. I have a red pen and my favorite kind of just blue pen. My husband prefers black, which makes it easy because I always know the blue pens are mine and the black pens are his. But that's really handy to have. I'm constantly using a pen. I also have pencils that are nice and sharp. I have an old-fashioned pencil sharpener that I just love. My youngest kids are kind of scared of it. So my husband actually got them an electric pencil sharpener, whatever you prefer. And then lots of erasers. I use erasers all the time. So I don't just go with the erasers that are on the end of a pencil. I go ahead and buy the extra little erasers because we're always erasing things. And then I have chalk or whiteboard markers, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And then I also have a highlighter because I'm highlighting things all the time. I talked about that in another video. So make sure that you have some of those basic supplies for you as a mom. I just keep all of those handy. I have a drawer that's really close to where we're at, so I put them in there. Well, we'll come back to how to organize that. You're going to want to have divider tabs for your binder. So those are just the plain little, it could be yellow with a little tabby. You can put right on the little piece of paper and stick it in. If you want to get fancier, there's cute ones. It doesn't matter, but you're going to want to have one tab for every single subject that you do in a day, plus maybe a few extra. So you're also going to need paper for your printer, and this assumes that you have a printer. You're probably going to need one, and a printer is just invaluable. So I have lots of information about printers down there. I say invest in a better printer that uses less ink, because ink is what really kills you, having to buy ink all the time. So my laser printer, I can actually buy toner cartridges that have been refurbished. I get mine for $8 a toner cartridge. That is so cheap, and I can run hundreds of pages on one of those $8 cartridges. So definitely put some time into thinking about the best kind of printer to get for you and your lifestyle. I might print more than you do. You're also going to want to have a 3-hole punch, because all of the things that come out of your printer have to have holes punched in them so you can put them in your binder. Don't go ahead and start printing yet. We're just talking about the things that you want to have available to you so that when you get started, you're ready to go. There are a lot of other school supplies that you could get, so let's just go over some of them. But if you don't want to write all these down, I have a link below the video to a list of these so that you can refresh your memory. It's okay if you don't think about it right now. So some of the things you're going to want to have is a Bible for every single student in your house. Obviously, that's important if the Bible is our primary textbook. And if you have young children that aren't reading yet, you might hold off on that. It's up to you. Maybe that won't be as necessary, but I like getting them a Bible. So this Bible that I have here is a New King James Bible. I just got it at Walmart. It's not that fancy. I love the New King James. That's my favorite, but I don't find that it has as many styles as some of the other translations, such as the NIV or the ESV. Some of the more obscure Bibles, like the Messianic or Torah observant kind of Bibles with sacred names, are harder to get more options in. So it just depends on what's important to you, and there's like no right or wrong here. I mean, there might be, but not really. It's a preference thing. I'm getting old, so I was just trying to find a Bible that had a big enough font that I could read it. Some of my more precious Bibles that I've had over the years have a lot smaller font, and I'm just getting too old for that. You go and look for what you're wanting, but honestly, Walmart has inexpensive Bibles, Target as well. And you can also go on Amazon. I love the New King James Adventure Bible for children, but it does have in the sidebars some things that are against Torah. So it's a kind of a give and take, but I like the font. I like that it's hardbound and lays flat for kids that are doing copy work and such. So anyway, it's completely up to you, but that's a very important school supply that you don't want to miss out on. You're going to need that from the very first day. So I talked about a binder for you as mom. Each of your students is going to need his or her own binder as well. So make sure I take my kids shopping for that so that they can pick it out, something that they like. So to me, that's just one of the fun things about getting ready for a new school year, is that school supply shopping trip. They are also going to need dividers for their binders. So you'll want to make sure that you get some of those, one for every subject and maybe a couple extra. You might want to get a package of sheet protectors so that if you're printing out charts from the Homeschooling Torah website, you can slip those charts in and it keeps them nice and sturdy. And for some of my kids, I give them their own charts, like the hundreds chart for arithmetic so that they can look at it every day, or a cursive handwriting chart, maps of the world. Those are nice for them to have in their binders as well. But you might just want to pick up a pack of sheet protectors, so maybe 25 to 50, and I don't know if you need that many for one school year. That's just what I have in my cupboard, and just have it on hand so that when you see a chart, you can put it in. And you don't have to have a color printer, by the way. We were talking about printers. When I print my charts, I print them in black and white, and I have my kids get their crayons and decorate them. Saves me gobs of money on ink. I just have black and white. Yes, there is color in some of our charts, but seriously, you don't have to have it. You'll save yourself so much money right there. You're going to want crayons and colored pencils. I talked about having them color their own charts. There's a lot of things that they're going to color in life. So crayons and colored pencils are our favorite things. Markers are okay, but one of the things I don't love about markers is you get the marker stuff all over the sides of your hands and it smears, and little babies and preschoolers love to throw markers on the floor, and then you get marker all over your house. And so for me, I usually stick with crayons and colored pencils and that good pencil sharpener. That's my personal preference. You do what you want, because it's totally a preference. I like to get, for notebooking pages, which we're going to talk about notebooking in just a bit, but we want to have some supplies for it. Construction paper would be a good place to start, but just some fun papers. If you go to a Michael's or Joann or Hobby Lobby, you might be able to find some fun papers. I personally don't do this unless things are on sale. So I get on Michael's and Hobby Lobby's discount email list, and I, once in a while, if I'm going that way, I look and see if they have any sales. Otherwise, I don't spend the money. But if you have a grandmother or an aunt or someone like that that likes to buy things for your kids, you might suggest that that would be a fun thing to get, because stickers and fun paper for their notebooking is just really good to have, but it's expensive. So I would wait on that one or just get a discount. You're going to want to have some loose leaf notebook paper. So you're going to want the wide ruled for your younger children, and as they move into the middle school and high school years, you probably want to move to college rule. Even though they're not in college, most children really do appreciate the smaller lined. And I get some for myself as well, just again for just brainstorming and stuff. I usually put about 20 sheets of it in my teacher binder so that I'm ready to brainstorm whenever I want to. And that college rule is my favorite as well. But yeah, we keep that handy. We also have a lot of spiral notebooks. Spiral notebooks are handy for arithmetic or just for all kinds of things. Spiral notebooks are awesome. They are nice for arithmetic, for working out bigger problems, even for high school students that are going into advanced math, algebra, geometry, trig. They're going to want to have somewhere where they can work out long problems. And I like to have a spiral notebook just so that they can always keep their work in one spot. And I can go back and check it later. You don't have to have it, but they're super inexpensive. Now for Bible copy work, I prefer the composition notebooks that lie flat. That way my children can write on both the front and the backs. And I also get them some whiteout tape so that they can make corrections to anything that they might have made a mistake on, because we want to teach them to do a very good job. So correction tape is a lifesaver. We take a Sharpie marker, which is another thing you might want to get, and we write each person's name on their own correction tape, and they're responsible to keep hold of it. For my children, I also get those little pouches that you can put inside a 3-ring binder, and you can put your pens and things in. My middle school and up age children like to get colored pens for their copy work, just because it's fun to write their copy work in a lot of different colors. My kids, I make them work for that because pens are expensive, so they have to do jobs around the house and save up their money for buying those special pens. But then I promise you, if they bought them with their own money, they tend much more to take care of them and not lose them. Otherwise, you could lose a fortune in buying pens all the time. So my children have their own set of pens. They keep them in their pouch inside their binder, whatever works for you. You might want to get a couple different folders with clasps that you could punch holes in a subject and put it into that folder, and that becomes that folder's specific binder, you could say. One of the ones I do this for is typing. Not everyone is doing typing. It's not a together school subject. We're going to talk about together school in a second. But say my 8th grader is learning to type. It's just kind of nice to have that put into a binder and stuck somewhere. And then when she gets to her typing, she can grab it. But then in a couple years, that when my 6th grader is ready to learn to type, he can grab that same binder and I don't have to print it twice. So think towards the future. Will you want to use these subjects again? And you might want to put them in something like, a folder with the 3 clasps in it. So, or something, a small 3-ring binder, something that kind of makes that more permanent. Other subjects that might apply to would be any of those electives. Anything that a student would do on their own, but it's just kind of nice to save it for the next student after them. Younger children, you're going to want to have things like paint, modeling clay and Play-Doh. I'm trying to think, all kinds of art supplies, pipe cleaners and whatever. Those things are fairly optional but fun. I like to go to Walmart and go walking through the craft section. It's cheaper than like a Joann's or a Hobby Lobby. I'm at Hobby Lobby, oh my goodness, I could be totally tempted to spend way too much, but it's just kind of handy to go to a cheaper store and just grab a few things that I think would be fun. One of the things you might want to have is some manipulatives for arithmetic, so things that can be counted. So a jar of buttons would be a great option. A thing of dice, which you can get over at Walmart in the children's section by the toys. Go to the games and get yourself a set of dice or some miscellaneous game pieces, or go to like a Goodwill or a thrift shop and pick up some old games that are missing pieces. You don't care about the game, you just want the game pieces and the dice and maybe some play money. Those are so cheap at a thrift store and you can have some fun with that. Other things would be like little cups that you could put things in. I go for the little paper Dixie cups and save a set of them in our school supplies so that my children can count. And I'm going to put a video below this, or link to a video below this, so that you can see even more about what I do with math manipulatives. How about tracing paper? Tracing paper is super handy because when your children are making their own maps, they can trace over things that are in books. And I think the act of tracing helps them remember better. So tracing paper is handy to have. You can get that at most stores, but if not, Amazon definitely has it. Glue and glue sticks, those are handy. Scissors, one for each child, and maybe a few extra pair to have around. Make sure you check if any of your children are left-handed, that they have supplies for them. Young writers might need a pencil grip to help them learn to hold their pencil properly. You might need some permanent markers. I mentioned Sharpies, black and many colors, as well as, you don't have to have it, but it's fun for making charts. You might think of some charts that I haven't supplied that, it would be a good way to help your children memorize things. You're going to want some Scotch tape, maybe some masking tape, a way to hang charts on the wall like thumbtacks or whatever your husband says is okay for your walls. Each child might want his own ruler. And you want to write their names on them so that they're responsible to keep track of where they are. It's nice to also have one yardstick for your family and maybe a measuring tape, just an inexpensive one, so that as they're learning things, they can measure the perimeter of your dining room and so on, and maybe even the backyard. Middle school and high school students will also need things like compasses, protractors, and calculators. I'm finding that most people have devices now that have calculators, so you might not need that one, separately. But young children, instead of a calculator, get them, if you can, an abacus. An abacus is wonderful because it has everything in rows of 10. So that's a little bit more expensive. If you can find one used somewhere, that's awesome, but it is a worthwhile investment because children really need that hands-on as they're learning to count. You might want to have a clock that you could use to help your children learn to tell time. If you can't afford a specialized educational clock, because they can be quite expensive, go to a thrift store and find a clock that no one wants anymore for $1 or $2 and just use it for school time. And you don't even have to keep a battery in it and have it tell time. It could just be one that you let your children turn the hands on and mess around with. So if you didn't spend much, you won't mind. I like having letter magnets for my young children, ABC letter magnets, or like the Hebrew alphabet letter magnets. That's something worth investing in because they're so useful as you learn Hebrew. You might want 3x5 cards for making flashcards, as we've been talking about in previous videos, and maybe an index card storage box so that you can keep them really well organized. You might even want some spiral 3x5 cards so that you can write memory verses or other things and flip through them. So just things to think about. You don't have to have all of these things. Definitely think about where you're going to store things later, because you cannot keep everything in one small 3-ring binder. It's just not possible to fit even a whole school year's worth of materials in it. So maybe every 9 weeks or so, swap things out, put new things in, and take the old things down to the basement or wherever you store things and put them in a hanging file crate. So you want some hanging folders. Definitely keep yourself organized there for future record keeping. You're going to hate yourself if you don't. Let's see, flashcards. We sell flashcards at foundationspress.com for learning readers. And so you've got all of your phonics, and we also have Hebrew flashcards for people that are learning to sound out their Hebrew letters. Otherwise, you might want a Strong's Concordance, although you can just use your phone and get a website for free or an app. But if you'd like to have a book, a Strong's Concordance, a dictionary, an ancient Hebrew lexicon, those are my 3 favorite. Maybe if you really wanted to splurge, a thesaurus for your older students. So those are some of your possible school supplies. That seems like a lot, but that's where I start. So when I'm getting organized, I first get all my supplies, and you're going to come home with all this stuff, bags and bags of things from Walmart, and they're going to be all over the place, and you're going to feel overwhelmed. So we first need to figure out then, where do we put everything? Well, I'm going to recommend that you take like a week before you start school. Don't just dive into school. Get organized. Make sure that you don't plunge into something without counting the cost. And getting yourself organized will relieve stress in so many ways. You can think of some fun activities for your kids to do while you organize, or you can do it together. If that'd be even better. But do take the time to organize. I know it feels overwhelming, and if you are a mom with young children, it even is more overwhelming, but I say take as long as you need, weeks if needed, to get yourself through that organizing process. So first of all, Mom, let's get you organized. We're going to go back to your binder. Let's set up some of the things that go inside of it. You're going to want to have your Together School Planner or something that you can track what you've done every day at the very front, so that when you open your binder, the first thing you see is, what am I doing today? What's the order, and what do we have to do, and what do we have, when are we doing it? I really do recommend our Together School Planner. That's what I use, and I keep track of everything that we're doing, and it becomes both my planner at the beginning of the week to say, what am I going to do this week? And at the end of the week, it then becomes my record of what we have done. So you've crossed off 2 things that are necessary for a homeschooling mom. So I put that at the very beginning, and then at the beginning of the next week, I put a new page on top. So at the bottom would be week 1, and by the end of the school year, week 36 is on the top, if they all fit. Sometimes, like I said, I take them out and put them in storage. You're going to want a curriculum overview chart so that you can kind of think, where am I going over all 12 years? And we'll put a link to that below the video. You're going to want your annual calendar so you can see a year at a glance, or even, because school years tend to start in the summer, you're going to probably want 2 years calendars in there so you can see ahead. You're going to want to keep track of your school attendance. If you are in a state that attendance keeping is required, I would actually do this in a separate calendar. We have those on our Homeschooling Torah website for our members. You're going to make sure that you print out your homeschooling laws in your state. Go to homeschoollegaldefenseassociation.org, hslda.org, and make sure that you find out what your laws are and that you are complying. And that's just a once a year thing. Make sure that nothing's changed and that you go ahead and have that in your binder as a record. And then you're going to make a list. Later we'll talk about independent subjects for your students. You're going to make sure that you want to have a list of what you told each student to do independently each day, because you will forget. And you want to be able to check and make sure that they've done what you asked them to do. And the only way you're going to remember is to put those checklists in your binder. And I have all that in the front. Maybe even a reading log of who's reading what books so that you can remember, because if you have a lot of children, you will not remember who read what. So, or even when they say in 3 years from now, man, do you remember that book that was about this? And you can go back to your reading logs and remember what everyone read, and it brings up good memories. Your younger kids will be like, I want to read that book. So all of this record keeping is super essential. Again, you can get links to all of this on the Homeschooling Torah website for our members, and it's free of charge to those who are members of Homeschooling Torah. So next, you're going to be choosing your courses. I mentioned an overview chart of, a possible way to go from kindergarten through 12th grade. This is really important to plan ahead. You're going to want to plan. But keep in mind as you plan that you do not know what the future holds. And so it is okay if you deviate from that plan, I promise. One of the ways that I kind of conquer that problem is by doing as many subjects with my students together as possible. So just for the record, you don't have to start in ancient history. You can start anywhere. You don't have to start any subject at the beginning. Now, I do like studying the Bible from the beginning, but otherwise, it's kind of interesting. You don't have to start every first grade child in ancient history. See, the problem comes when you have a sixth grade child, a fourth grade child, a second grade child, and a kindergartner. You can't have them all in different subjects. It's just absolutely overwhelming. How would you teach that many history subjects every day, plus, everyone getting their own science and everyone getting their own language arts and everyone getting their own Bible? You will not be able to keep track of all of that. So putting them all in the same history topic together and then rotating through those a couple times. So let's say there's 5 history subjects, or even 6 of them, then every student can go through each one twice over the course of their schooling years. And it doesn't matter really where they start. You're going to find, honestly, your younger children coming up, they're on the floor playing with toys while you're doing American history with your second grader. And you'd be surprised how much that younger child is absorbing, even though you're not actively teaching them. So later, when they get to American history, they're going to be like, I feel like I've been down this before, and they have. So it's okay to do school together and just plug your students in as they get old enough to participate. Don't worry about it otherwise. You're also going to need to figure out what subjects you're going to want to tutor your individual children in. So what I mean by that is some subjects you can't do together. So for instance, teaching a child to read is really difficult to do as a group because unless you have twins, they're both learning to read, or maybe 2 children that are very close in age. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to independently teach your children. So pick out what you're going to do. When you join Homeschooling Torah, there is a roadmap at the top of the website. And I recommend that you go to those roadmaps and you work your way through them, and we will give you counsel and advice on how to choose the different subjects for your children. Your children will also have independent assignments that they do each day. So that would be independent Bible reading, chapter books that they're reading on their own, their copy work from the Bible, projects that they have to work on from history class or science that they're going to do on their own time. It would be piano practice, chores, typing, reviewing their Hebrew flashcards. These are just some ideas of things that they would do independently. So you've got yourself set, and as you're looking at the pile of stuff, before you even get any more organized, let's think about what time of day you're going to be doing your schoolwork. And the reason I'm saying that is because you're going to have to arrange your house in a way that makes sense for your schedule, and that affects where you store everything, right? And how you get organized. So you're looking at your house and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I've got a newborn that needs to nurse every few hours. I've got a 4-year-old that's very active but wants to start doing some schoolwork. I've got a 3rd grader who's barely reading, but able to do some things on his own. And then I've got a 7th grader that's very independent, but I could probably get some help from her. Maybe she would like to take dinner twice a week, and she could help put a load of laundry in and help change it over to the dryer occasionally. You can all take turns. Maybe your I forgot what ages I said. Maybe your 3rd grader could help watch the baby while you're working with your 4-year-old to learn his letters, things like that. So remember that the younger children, they are not able to take as much change. They need a good structure to their day to know what is next about their day. And what you're going to want to do is probably focus on them right after breakfast and do their reading and any math, read a Bible story with them, do their preschool pages, things like that right away. So that first of all, they feel really loved. And second of all, before they get too tired to even be able to manage. And then help them get some independent playtime while you start working with your older children. If you need more help on that, our preschool curriculum has gobs of ideas on how to set that up and what it looks like. We also have a book called The 4 Foundations of Lifelong Learning, which has a lot of the same information that's in the preschool, but if you just want some ideas on setting up a young child's schedule, that would be the book to get. So for your older children, think about when would be a good time to do math. You don't want to do math at a time they're starting to get tired and they're crying because it's overwhelming. You don't want to put a reading subject right when everyone's falling asleep right when you're falling asleep. So think about your energy levels throughout the day and figure out how much energy would that need. And maybe if you don't know, go to our sample schedules and just try one of them and see if maybe that helps you, okay? Don't forget to plan in times for naps. Children, especially age 5 and younger, need a quiet time or nap every day. They really do. And mom sometimes needs them to have a quiet time or nap every day. Make sure you take times for breaks, running around the house or doing some fun physical activity from our PE curriculum. Make sure that you don't always do academic things hour after hour after hour with frying your brains. You don't fry your brains. Like change it up, mix it up. You can even put in chores and housework and things in between school subjects so that you have some variety so that your brain just gets a break, okay? Make sure that you have time for snacks. Growing children, when their brains are growing and their bodies are growing and they're getting teeth and all of those things, they need snacks. They need 2 things probably. They need sleep at night with maybe some rest times in the day, and they need lots of nutrition. So you're going to have to plan, first of all, where would we put the snack in that day? Who's going to make the snack? Who's going to buy the things at the store? Who's going to make sure that nobody eats that snack before the time in which we planned it? So we have a lot of menu planning and meal planning ideas on our website, but as far as snacks, make sure that, maybe that one of those sticky notes that's in your binder could be used to plan out the snacks, and then you could assign different children, or I want you to get some cream cheese and put it on the celery sticks. I want you to get a bowl and put the chips in it and we're going to put it on the table, or whatever you're going to do for snacks. Make sure that you have what you're going to have, who's going to buy it, when is it going to be eaten, and everybody knows the rules, and so that somebody doesn't accidentally eat it at 11 o'clock at night, like maybe your husband or something. Make sure that your lesson times are not too long. This is a common mistake I find with new homeschoolers. They think that they have to get through every single thing that's in the lesson plans. I would say keep one eye on the clock. And if the clock is saying that your lessons are getting longer than 30 minutes, max 45, goodness, that's hard. 30 minutes, sometimes for younger children, even 15 to 20. Keep an eye on the clock and stop the lesson for the day. Put it away. Don't let it bother you that you're still going to be on that lesson tomorrow. It's okay. Get the book out tomorrow. Do a brief review of what you did, a couple minutes, like I talked about in the previous video, and then dive in again. But keep an eye on that clock, because the clock won't lie to you. If you find that your children are zoning out or their behavior starts to go downhill, then note what time it was. And how long has it been since a nap? And how long has it been since they've had a chance to walk around and take a break? And make a note on your sticky note. And tomorrow, cut it just a little bit shorter by a minute or 2 and see if that helps, okay? Keep things in the same order, but the clock is a useful tool for you to help you know when you're wearing your kids out. It's okay to stop and put the lesson away. You don't have to put all the information in their head in one day. It's not like you open the top of their head and pour it all in. No, they have to learn, and it's hard work and you wear out. So have some mercy on your kids and don't make those lessons too long. So for that reason, one of the supplies you should buy at the store is a really nice clock for the wall, not for teaching time necessarily or playing around with, but one for you so that you know what time it is and you can just constantly be looking at it, okay? Make sure that you think about when are you going to put laundry and meal prep and errands that you have to run, such as grocery shopping. It's that every week stuff. Where are you going to put it? It takes time to run a household, and one of the challenges of being a homeschool mom is trying to manage everything at once. So for that reason, one of the things that we have done in our curriculum is in our together school subjects such as history and science, we only have hard lessons that take a lot of time with mom. Well, by a lot I mean maybe 30 minutes and we wrap it up, right? We only do that 3 times a week because there's several of those and you don't have time to get all that done and the rest of your life. So on days 4 and 5, you give your children some independent assignments that they can be working on while you start making the grocery list and you start making sure that, these other things in your life, such as paying the bills and balancing your checkbook, are all done. So you need to make sure that you have set aside time for you to manage your entire household. So definitely look at our curriculum and kind of notice that the first 3 days of each week are a little bit more interaction with mom, and days 4 and 5 are a little bit less. And that was very intentional. That was for your sanity, just like it was for my sanity when I wrote it. Don't forget to plan things like appointments, doctor appointments, dentist appointments, music lessons, co-op days. Some of those things can really wreck a homeschooling year. So be wise in what you decide to do. Mom, you don't have to do it all. You don't necessarily need a co-op. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe the Father has led you to want one. But if you do, you're going to have to figure out where to put everything else. So be wise in your decisions. And you know, when you're scheduling vet appointments, doctor appointments, dentist appointments, this and that and the other, put them at a time that works for your school so that you're not shortchanging your children. And be ruthless. You know, they say, can you come in at 10 o'clock on Tuesday? And you're going to say, I am so sorry, but we are not available then. How about 4 o'clock? That would be better, or whatever works for you. Lastly, make sure you have thought about chores. You're going to need to get chores done. Children are going to need to put their toys away. School stuff is going to have to be put away at the end of the day. Laundry is going to have to be put away. The bathroom is going to need to be wiped down. The floor will have to be vacuumed or swept, and so on. Garbage out. All of those things take time. That's why we have 2 days that are a little bit less. I throw all my appointments and errands on one day, and the other day is for Sabbath prep, and on my Sabbath prep day, I do a lot of the cleaning. Now, it might not look that way for you, but that has worked out really well for us, although sometimes we're really tired when you come to Sabbath. So some people like to do their cleaning on another day. So whatever you choose, make sure you also have time periods in your day, such as before Daddy gets home from work, maybe you're going to do a 10-minute cleanup around the house and put all the clutter away. Make sure you have times in your schedule and you've thought through when you're going to wash the dishes and when you're going to put things away. So just some little things that are easily overlooked but incredibly important to keeping your household and your homeschooling day running. Here's another one I forgot. Don't forget, Mom, that you're going to need time to get your thoughts together once a week. Yes, you should be able to just open the books and start homeschooling, but you might have gotten off schedule a little bit last week. Maybe you had one of those days where everyone was really tired. And so now you're going to have to figure out, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay on this 180-day schedule that is arbitrary, honestly? Or am I going to basically re-edit the curriculum, drop a few of the assignments? Am I going to take 2 years to finish the subject, which is perfectly legitimate? Whatever you do, you're going to need a planning time. And I think personally, you're going to need a planning time once a week. And I love when Sabbath has come to an end. It's like Sabbath is a reset button for the rest of our weeks, right? So when Sabbath comes to an end, I like to sit and plan out my new week. There have been years that I did that on Saturday evening at 10 o'clock at night, but I'm a little bit more of a morning person, and I think generally over the years I prefer Sunday morning. And sometimes I'll let my kids sleep in a little bit that morning intentionally so that I can have a little bit of extra time. I grab my coffee and I sit down and I plan out my week. Planning everything just makes it go so much more smoothly. It will help you to feel like you're ready for the week. And once you're done planning, you can then go to the computer and print out what you need for that week. Instead of printing all 180 days at one time, I really recommend that you print in smaller segments. What if you want to change something up? You've wasted a ton of paper and ink. So you definitely want to find a planning time and then just print in small segments, and then grab your 3-hole punch and print out what is, or punch holes in what is needed for that week. In a second, I'm going to talk about how my children have assigned seats around the table. So when I'm printing, I'll print everything I need for the week first, teacher's manuals and so on. And then I start with my younger children, and I print out going up through my children until I get to the older ones. And as it comes out of the printer, I punch the holes and I put it at their spot at the table. And then when they come down, yes, at our house, we don't do school on the first day of the week, but that's their day. They grab their papers and they can put them in their binders, and it's their responsibility to put them away and not lose them. They have to put them in the right spot behind the divider for that subject. So you don't have to do this all on your own. You can get help, but it's just a few pages. It's because it's just once a week. So maybe you decide to do it once a month, and maybe at that point it's like 20 pages for each subject. It's a little bit more overwhelming to me. I tend to run out of ink in the middle of the project, so I like to do it once a week. But say each subject has only 4 or 5 pages, at the most 10, and some of the younger ones with word power and such. And so then they can put them where they go, and you're done, and you're ready to go for the week. And you know what? I feel like we get more school done consistently when we have that planning time at the beginning of the week. Next, you're going to want to make your actual schedule as to how your week is going to go. We're going to talk about time management in a future video, so I'm going to leave most of the details for that, except to say that you're going to make your ideal week and your master plan, but it won't always go according to that. So again, that planning time that you're going to have at the beginning of each week is going to help you reset and get back on target. So we'll talk more about that in a future video.
So when I recorded this video, I completely forgot to have you set up a student binder for each of your students. So you're going to want some tabs. So just like your binder, one for each subject that they're doing, and some things that you could put in. So like your students would probably want some of their own math pages. So I just have some examples here. You're probably going to need things like their word power or writing. Maybe if you have an older student, you might have some grammar. So this is from our grammar workbook. And so trying to think what else. Oh, probably some science. And one of the, here, I'll show you some of our science ones. This isn't a very good example, but so here we go. So this is their science worksheets right now as they are. And they would need to put these in. So they'll have all of these in there for the whole year when they're done. And basically, otherwise, you might want to put their notebooking pages that they make for history or science or Bible. You want those in there. How about Bible reading schedules? I think I have some samples of those in here. Whoops. Yeah. So, yeah, these are some Bible reading schedules that let them, you know, remember to read each day. And my kids just put a check when they've done. And it's really fun to see the progress as they go through the Bible and they get all the way through. So, other subjects that you would want to include in their binder would be electives or just anything you choose that they want to keep track of. And so this binder doesn't need to be as thick as my example here. A small one could work just fine. And if it gets full, put those things in storage and keep samples. Remember to keep samples of their tests and stuff too. So anyway, that is just setting up the student binder is really just like setting up your binder. So it's not too hard. It's just a smaller version, and they're each going to keep that in their own book bag or whatever.
As you set up your beginning of your school year, one of the things that you're going to be doing is set everyone's habits in the household, because just because you planned the schedule and you planned the schoolwork and you planned out how everything is going to go doesn't mean that everybody else got the memo. And it takes a lot to redirect everyone's habits and schedules. I mean, if you go to a public school, your child has to get on the bus and go to the classroom, and everybody there has set up the schedule and everyone moves through it, and it's pretty dramatic. It's really difficult to get that same drama at home. And I'm not saying that you need to. Definitely, we're not trying to copy how the schools do it. But you kind of don't have any way to go, bam, school started and everybody's on track. You can build up the excitement. Say in 2 weeks we're going to start school and start talking it up and planning. But realize that when you get there, even if you have a really cool start to the school year, it's going to take time to get everyone's bodies to cooperate, their circadian rhythms to switch, and their mental attitudes to get on these new habits. So don't be discouraged by this. Just be aware that it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment. All right, number 8, let's plan out our schoolroom, okay? So we've still got our bags of stuff we brought home from Walmart, all the school supplies that we bought. You've got your spiral notebooks and your composition books and your notebook paper and your binders and your hole punches, and everything is just everywhere. So when you start your school year, you want to put things at the point of use. So you've already made your schedule, you know what subjects are coming, and maybe you don't know what things will be needed in every subject, but here's some suggestions. So your school supplies like colored pencils and pens and scissors and all of that stuff, you could again have each child have their own inside their binder, or you could put little mason jars in the center of the table and put all the supplies in there, and at the end of the day put all those mason jars into a container or into a drawer or cupboard. So you basically need to have available at their fingertips everything they're going to need for the year. And you might not be able to think of what those are. And as the year goes on, you're going to realize, oh man, we needed scissors every single day in history because we were making notebooking pages. Or we need to have glue sticks available. We need to have chalk and an eraser. So as you plan it out, let's say scissors are the classic thing. You might need scissors in a lot of different places in your house. So buy more pairs of scissors and have them at all of those places. And that way, when the child is using them, they can then put them away right there and not have to walk across the house and put them back in some drawer. That never happens. So have your tools available. It's difficult to do a good job if you don't have tools and they're ready at hand. So just like a workman has a tool belt and everything is on there, you as a homeschool mom, make sure the tools you need are in your schoolroom, okay? I also like to have my kids have assigned seats. You don't have to do this, but it just makes it kind of nice because every day your child knows where to sit and where to put his stuff. And it's just very much those habits that we were talking about, and it becomes easy for his body to just get in a groove. So I just have my kids in the same place every day. It's interesting, research says that when the child is learning to read, if everything in the room is in the same spot every day as they come back to that, the brain starts to orient it. And I think back to kindergarten, and I sat in the same spot every day, and I can actually remember where I was sitting when I learned certain letter sounds. I may have a weird memory, but I do think that research is fascinating. So even when I come over to my reader and we're learning something, I try to stand on the same side of his body and reach over him and in the same way every time, because I'm helping his brain to orient himself. So this is a really strong reason to have assigned seats around the table during school time, but it just also helps keep order. You're probably going to want to have a whiteboard or a chalkboard, or both, depending on your style of decorating and how you want to have your house, and just your preferences if you like chalk or whiteboard markers better. So just make sure that you have some way when you're trying to explain something, to draw a picture or to write it up there is sometimes so much better. Math is a classic example of where we would need it. If you don't have space for something that you can permanently put on the wall, then a small one works, okay? Like for years, all I had was a small whiteboard and it was magnetic. That's a really handy thing for a whiteboard because then you can put those letter magnets for your young readers. But anyway, that's a really important thing for your schoolroom. Then you're going to want to have space to put charts on the walls. Charts help your children learn. So grammar has charts, and math has charts, and spelling has charts, and Bible will have charts. Learn the books of the Bible. You can put up your Bible verses. You have maps for history. You have periodic table of elements in science. So just so many things. And if you don't have the space for this, then you can get or make yourself like a big portfolio that has pages, and you can open to that chart and show your children that, and then slide it between something to put it away at night. And for people like our family, that our house has to do multiple uses because we have a small family with a lot of people. Getting a dresser to put your supplies in, closing it up and decorating it pretty makes it just look like a piece of furniture and no one will know that's all your school stuff. Or a cabinet with doors that close keeps the clutter looking a lot less. My husband is actually starting to build benches for our dining room that will have storage that opens up underneath. You can put a whiteboard up on the wall and hang it on hooks and then put it away at the end of the school day and you're back to your normal decorating in your house. Your children probably need bags or crates to put their school books in and their binders. And then those could go away at the bottom of their closets at night. So all of these are things that you can do to kind of make your house look more neat and tidy. So in your home library, you're going to want to have some bookshelves because you're teaching your children about reading and you're going to need a place to put all the books for history, all the reference books, all the books that they're reading for chapter books, all your Bible reference books, and all the journals and binders that you're starting to accumulate. So you're going to want to have a binder probably for all the notebooking pages. You can put them in the students' binders, or you could just have a dedicated history notebooking thing and put dividers in for each of your children. And that it's up to you, but you're going to want to store those notebooking pages somewhere. You're going to want to have a place to put a timeline. So whether you hang up a timeline that shows all 6,000 years of human history on the wall, if you have space, that's cool. If you don't, a 3-ring binder that you can put a timeline, or you can purchase a book of the centuries from various suppliers like Rainbow Resource or Amazon. So you're going to just want to have a place to put your dictionaries and your Strong's Concordances and all of that. So a bookshelf is incredibly important. But again, if you want to cut down on the visual clutter, get one that has doors in front of it. So I think a bookshelf in your schoolroom is one of the most essential things that you're going to need. So now, you've gotten yourself organized. You've started to print out just the first week or so of the school subjects for your children. You've got your teacher binder. Again, just the first week. Let's not go crazy. Don't try to print the entire year at once. I think that would make you insane, especially because you've invested so much ink and paper that you'll want to go nuts if you can't accomplish it just like you thought. Your expectations for the year will go crashing if you cannot fulfill them in every way. So print just a little bit and accomplish that. On the first day of school, don't expect to get done everything that's listed on day one. I hardly ever get that done. Day one is a very loose thing. Day one can take several days. My husband likes to say that it's important for the first day of school to teach procedures. Don't worry about the information so much, but you're kind of helping your children go through the ropes of what a school day is going to look like. And then on day two, you might start with the rest of whatever you didn't get on day one. It might even take you 3 days to get through day one. Just get those procedures, get those habits formed, get on schedule. Watch the clock and stop the lessons when they're getting too long for your children. Note how long they can sit through a lesson and when they need a break, and then adjust, which is why I say don't print out too much at once, because you're going to adjust pretty often. So some of the things that you might expect to happen on the first days of school, you might expect some children to feel a little grumpy because everything's different. And so you might expect to have some extra songs and fun stuff, maybe some games. Try to put a treat at the end of the day, like maybe surprise everyone and take them out for ice cream. Something to make that first day special. When you go out to do something during the day, grab your camera and take pictures because it's your first day of school. But don't expect your kids to have every bit of excitement you have. You've been doing a lot of planning and they're just like, wow, my whole life just got turned upside down. You might want to make sure they have extra sleep for that first week, but most importantly, keep them on that routine. Plow through. Even when it feels like everyone's grumpy and you're like, this isn't working. Well, you haven't given enough time to see if it's working yet. So you have to just keep going, and you hold consistently to that routine. Give them extra snacks, individual rest time for all the introverts in your household that need some time to de-people, even from you. So just keep those first week's lessons nice and short, nice and easy, nice and happy. Smile even if you don't feel like it. Even if everyone around the table is crying, you smile and start singing, okay? Keep those lessons short and keep just the routine, the order of things the same, and on the short side, and don't worry about the information that you're getting through. Once the routine has been set and everyone gets used to what they do when they wake up in the morning, first this happens and then that happens, then you can start to add more information. But that's going to take a few days, maybe even a few weeks. So don't set expectations for yourself of what you imagine homeschool is going to be like. It's probably going to be chaotic. That's what it's going to be like for the first few weeks. But once you start to get into the rhythm of it, everyone will settle down. So to me, keeping everybody happy, remember we were talking about being thankful. You can have them, when they're crying and grumpy, say, okay, what are we thankful for? And then just keep moving, okay? Keeping the routine the same day after day will probably be the number one thing you can do to keep peace and harmony in your homeschooling. So be consistent. Day 2 can be the most difficult of days. You want to quit. Don't quit. Be consistent. Stick to it. Determine that you will do this and plow through until suddenly one day you wake up and go, I'm used to this. Or as a friend of mine said, her husband went out of town for a week And so she decided to just let everybody have fun and not do school that week. And suddenly, by day 3 or so of that week, everyone was in tears and like, we want to do school. We want our life back. So that will become their new normal, and it can happen for you too. So I hope that really helps you as you get started in homeschooling to be a little bit more realistic about what it should look like. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our staff or to set up a phone call with us, because we would love to help you fine tune. So that's our job. But you keep your head up and know that you're doing what's best for your children, and that all that good planning will come to a great result in the end. Just like when you're planting a garden and you work so hard and you have struggles that come, but in the end, the fruit that you reap will be amazing. So stick to it, Mom. Shalom.